Welcome. We're super excited that you can join us.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, no, it's great. Obviously, what I think I'd love to do is we've got about 30 minutes, give or take. Maybe we go a little long. I'm going to start with you, Tom,
Okay.
and just ask a little bit about the journey of the Trump family into crypto, the relative into the election, the relative importance of the crypto crowd, et cetera, and then really shift gears and talk a little bit about World Liberty Financial.
Excellent.
All right. Well, so with that, would you mind just taking us a little bit on the journey of how the Trump family got involved in crypto and digital assets, what that journey was like, what do you like about it?
Well, we've loved the journey. It's been amazing. I mean, we've been so welcomed. It's awesome to see. We were late adapters, right? We were real estate guys. We were hard asset. I mean, as a political refugee to the state of Florida from the People's Republic of New York, where we sit today, I'm actually shocked I haven't been served a subpoena just yet. But there's time. It was an interesting shift, right? There wasn't a banker in this city that I couldn't pick up the phone and call and get a loan for a building or a project wherever we were doing around the world. You enter the political spectrum, and all of a sudden, that was gone, right? I mean, we got to the point. I mean, myself, family members. I mean, we had a hard time getting a loan from a bank where we had 5, 10x the loan with the bank. I'm like, wait a second, just to get a house, like a mortgage. Like, it's like, what happened here? And so it was interesting. It was a dynamic shift because I guess we took it for granted that you were, that guy that had that access, and it was sort of always easy. Once that got turned off, you realize just how corrupted the system actually is. You realize just how inefficient it is, how unfair it actually is. I think I got in trouble for about 6 hours, when we first sort of started talking World Liberty. We did the original sort of Twitter Spaces, and I was like, the whole financial system's really one big Ponzi scheme. We just didn't know it because we were at the top of the Ponzi scheme, and so it just sort of worked. But you realize how hard it is for everyone else, and so much of the movement, contrary to popular belief, like we didn't need all the joys that came with getting into politics, right? We were doing pretty good before that. But we chose to do it and realized, we're fighting for so many forgotten Americans. And these are people that are dealing with these problems every day. They can't get X, Y, Z. They don't meet some sort of criteria, or they're not a chosen category. And, we started looking at crypto as this thing that was this nebulous, sort of hard to understand thing just because of where we came from, and being like, wait a minute, like this is the future. I mean, this is, where everyone can play. Not just, what we're talking about with this, eventually a DeFi platform or otherwise, but I see it with my own kids. Like my 15-year-old talks about liquidity like a 20-year veteran of Goldman Sachs. And for us as an entrepreneurial family, that's amazing, because as real estate guys, it was sort of hard to how do you teach a 15-year-old about business these days, right? You can play in the stock market and maybe something moves 5% over 5 years. We live in a little bit more of an instant gratification world. You need some of that action, that excitement. And so watching them play, even in the meme coin side of things, and just doing things, it was incredible. And so we were, again, sort of late adapters, met sort of these incredible guys, started talking about it, and I still haven't, I'm not fully immersed into crypto yet. I haven't gotten the uniform down yet. I gotta. I'll get there. Listen, maybe that's sort of where I am. I was like, I'm going to be on a stage in New York. Like, I'm putting on a suit. This is probably where I am in my personal life. But again, you start talking about these guys, and there is a level of sophistication, that honestly doesn't exist. You go back and you start thinking about, banking and the inefficiency and the time, and why is this guy getting points to push a piece of paper from here to there to get it back? And you realize the system is just broken. I think what we can do here, what the industry can do, just create those efficiencies that haven't existed. Not tax people in and out of everything for no real reason, for no added value. We just became believers. You saw that when my father started talking about it during the campaign. That notion of sort of that freedom, the self-regulatory nature of it, the transparency of it all. And I'm like, honestly, this sort of aligns with everything we're talking about that frankly had nothing to do with crypto, but what we believed, as people sort of promoting a free and fair society. And, those things just sort of meshed and was like, whoa, like this is us, this is the future. And so many people in the space really, did that, and they believed it, and they saw it, and they were so welcoming to us that it was just sort of this snowball effect. It was great.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you clearly saw momentum in the digital asset community building during this whole election season. When was it clear to you, and I guess the broader Trump family, that this could become a core constituency in this election?
I saw it early from some of the guys that I'd sort of even just been communicating on. I mean, whether it's just, me doing my own social and just being sort of active and interactive, I saw it there. But when it really hit home, I was in Nashville the day before my father spoke at Bitcoin, and like, I walked through that floor, it was like me at the RNC. Like, there was no, it's like, corporate asks, what's the difference between these pictures? I'm like, it's the same. And I was like, how is that possible? And it was, you just, the same, same mindset, same, fight for freedom, that it was there that I was like, wait a second, like we got to go all in on this, and we did, but then more importantly, we also then had to deliver on those promises, right? I mean, so much of what you see these days in the political spectrum, people tell you what you want to hear till they get elected, and they go back to doing things their old ways. For me, a big part of it, I figured I'd have a lot more free time after November 5th. Turns out, every once in a while the dog catches the car, then we won. It's like, now you got to deliver. And so it was, a big part of what I've spent the last 3 months on up till, when I'm sort of free of that world on January 20th at noon, was establishing a team to actually fulfill the promises we made on that campaign, right? In Washington and DC, in politics, far too often it's like, well, someone's put in a position because they know someone or they've been there longer. They may not know anything about what they're doing. They're making trillion-dollar decisions without even a basic framework of understanding. And so for me, it was like, we got to do the opposite of that. We got to put people in place that do understand that. I got to know David Sachs even prior to the transition period, because he was one of those guys that came from, San Francisco, Silicon Valley VC, that like really opened the door to be like, well, what's wrong with what this guy's saying? I get that it's, maybe unpopular with the minions, but for the entrepreneurs who are trying to do the things, the guys that are the real creative geniuses, he was like, I don't know, I kind of like what's going on here. I mean, that sort of opened the door. Then Elon sort of stepped through next, and Sean McGuire and all these guys actually started having that conversation. And again, it was that similar snowball effect. It's like, wait a second, we actually believe all these things. So for me, a big part of that when David was talking about, going in and being AI czar, I was like, no, you're going to be AI and crypto czar, because we need someone who understands this, not having what Washington does, which is, again, over-regulate, not understand. We do need a framework to do the guidance. I mean, we how many countless hours did we spend on calls with some of the most sophisticated lawyers, perhaps anywhere in the world, and they're like, well, we'd like to do this. Well, we don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Like this is, it's very, well, it could be fine, or you could go to jail for 30 years. I'm like, hey, as the most subpoenaed man in modern American history, as the person who's probably done more congressional testimony than anyone else, I've done 60 hours of congressional testimony for treason, minor details. It's a crime punishable by death. That's like my average Tuesday morning at this point. I was like, well, how do we not know this? And so, we do have to create that framework in which which I believe to be the future of finance, where we can play, where there is an understanding of what that is, but also where it's not so overregulated by people who don't know what they're talking about that you lose everything that it stands for. And so, that's been a critical part of the last few months, and I'm super excited about the team, and then, the team that they're putting under there, because it's going to be one of the few times in Washington, I think, where you have people that are truly, titans of industry actually leading those industries and doing what's right and what makes sense for everyone else abroad.
Yeah, no, it's been very abundantly clear that this new administration is very serious about crypto, some of the people that are already involved. So how should we think just about the, I guess, ongoing importance of this topic? Because as we all know, once an election passes, there's just a wide variety of things to get done. How would you kind of stack rank the concept of digital assets for the relative importance?
I think it's perhaps the future of like American hegemony in terms of our economic status, our economic might. And, I'm a late adapter, but I'm not an idiot. You see these things going, and like we're basically forcing this incredible technology away from America for the last few years. You're forcing them to go to places that people wouldn't even want to necessarily go, but they have no choice. because they're not willing to risk their life, or jail, or just not having that understanding. So, I think it's probably as critical a topic as anything, because I think it's going to be the future of banking. Not just in America, and I want to make sure we're controlling that. I want to make sure there's a regulatory framework that we're regulating, or we're taxing it. That's good for the world. But as I was watching everyone get pushed to places all over the place, some places that may be natural competitors, some places that are just outright enemies, at least philosophically. It's so fundamental. So I think it's a top priority of this administration. I think my father made that very clear, and more important than just saying it, I think the actions that he has taken since then to bolster that, whether it's the team, whether it's the things he's already been talking about, and not going with the CBDC, not allowing the free markets to actually do this. He's not just talking the talk; he's walking the walk.
No, 100%. As a American crypto company, obviously this new attitude is very welcomed. Yeah. You mentioned, there's certain things that in your opinion should not happen, the CBDC, et cetera. There's been talk about, a Bitcoin strategic reserve and the like. Is there anything else that you personally feel like probably you should consider that in order to make America the home of crypto? Listen,
I think number one probably has to just be that regulatory framework. You have to understand, what you can and can't, or what are the where can't you go? I think if you do that, America has such an advantage. I mean, you have such great innovators here. That's a natural place to do it, but you have to create that structure so that people know. I mean, you can't come up with something this innovative with this much money at stake and have the most sophisticated people in the world just not have an understanding of whether it's even kosher. That doesn't fly. And so, I know David's in the process of, working on sort of that, that crypto council, and just making sure that you actually have people from the industry, not just someone who, hey, well, that'll be interesting, or I think, that could be a powerful position in time, so I want to be a part of it when they have no basis of, no real reason to actually be there, because they don't bring anything to the table. So, it's creating that team of people who understand all aspects of it, whether it's the crypto side, whether it's blockchain side, and coming up with something that makes sense, that actually attracts people to, onshore to America, not offshore. And so, I imagine they'll be working on that. Again, I'm totally out. I did what I needed to do to help, create, my father always made that final decision, obviously. But, getting those right people at the table, I think, that's our incredible opportunity. You see what Elon's doing with Doge. Just bringing people from the outside, from different walks of life, frankly, from, at least prior to this, different political affiliations, just to understand, no, this is what we need to do collectively as America. And I mean, just when you see what's going on, even in the last few days, the exposure, the transparency, and no difference in the transparency of what we're doing here. It's all out there. It's on the chain. You can go see. People write stories. So it's if you bother to look, you could see exactly what we're doing. It's all out there in the open, and that sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. And I think that applies to what we're doing. That applies to the space in general, and I think it applies to politics across America right now. And that has not been the case. I mean, we've spent a lot of money on things that the American public did not realize their taxpayer dollars were going to fund.
No, that is 100% true. And I really like just the overall, everything that we're seeing that is happening in the ecosystem, the fact that the digital asset, the crypto council is being put together. I think we're extraordinarily excited to see all of that take shape.
Likewise.
All right, I want to shift gears a little bit towards World Liberty Financial. I'm really just going to open the floor, I think, to you guys. There's been a lot of talk about it. There's been a lot of stories written, some of it clearly not very true. So I want to give you guys the opportunity. What's the vision for World Liberty Financial? What are you guys working on?
You want to fire it up?
Go ahead, Zach.
So I think with World Liberty Financial, the goal really is to be the bridge between traditional finance and crypto. We've seen for a long time, we've been involved in crypto for 10 years plus at this point. And I think for us, when it first clicked, we're like, oh my God, when everybody else catches on and understands what we figured out a decade ago, everything's going to change, from finance to real estate to transactions, contract law, everything, right? But it felt like year after year, it's this is going to be the year. This is going to be the year. And every year, nothing changed. And it wasn't until, the Trumps and, DJT really got behind it and understood how important this is to America and the future of finance, the future of our country, to really get behind it and embrace it that we're starting to see, like Don was saying, all of the regulatory framework coming together, getting those clear rules of the road. And so our goal here is not necessarily to build anything new that isn't already being done. We believe that there are already phenomenal teams like the Ondo team, like all of the other teams out there that are building incredible chains, protocols, projects. Those are the true innovators. We see our job here is more as being the glue that ties those things together and goes out and onboards the next wave of users into Web3. So, for example, the way we see it is, one of the biggest issues with people coming into crypto right now is that for all of us in the room and probably everybody watching, everyone's very familiar with what it takes to be able to interact with DeFi protocols, what it takes to be able to bridge assets from one chain to another. But the problem is that we can't expect the everyday person who's just trying to go to their job, save some money, spend time with their family, to sit at home and nerd out and figure out, seed phrases and wallet abstraction. And, all of this stuff is just beyond what the average person is going to want to do to be able to get the benefits that we all know crypto can really provide. So the way we see it is we want to work with and partner with all of the best and brightest in the space, not to build the next best chain or build the next best protocol, but instead to be the glue that really ties everything together and abstracts away some of those difficult crypto aspects so that the everyday person who's already comfortable with Web 2 products can get the benefits of DeFi and crypto and Web 3 without having to make that big gap, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. I think that concept of creating more open access clearly resonates quite a bit with us. As you guys know, we are launching a platform that really has the purpose to put publicly listed securities on chain. So how would you describe the vision of World Liberty Financial? Is it just crypto? Does it involve, a broader financial services, including securities? Like, what does that vision ultimately look like?
It's everything. It's basically being that bridge between traditional finance and decentralized finance and putting it in a very simple to use package, whether it's for institutions or retail investors and, consumers, to be able to get the benefits without having to, become crypto natives essentially. And so the way we see it is, look, like I was saying, we're not going to be able to educate everybody out there on how to become, an ultimate crypto degen. That's not the goal. Nor do these people want to take risk or speculate. That's not what's in their best interest. But if you can get somebody a better return because you're democratizing finance and putting the power back in the hands of the people, not only is that at the heart of crypto, but that's at the heart of, the American culture and the American way of life and capitalism in general and what's made this such an incredible country from the very beginning. So the way we see it as a company is our goal here is not really to reinvent the wheel. It's to make sure that every single house has 2 cars parked in the driveway. And the way that we see that we're going to be able to achieve that is, again, not by creating more complex or newer or better products. It's by taking the best of what's already out there and going out and making it so that we can meet the customer where they're at today in a Web 2 environment, simple to use consumer applications, iOS, Android, native applications, simple institutional dashboards that TradFi institutions can come. Many of these traditional financial institutions already have securitized or tokenized securities. And this is something that you guys are working on at Ondo. But due to the AML and KYC requirements that kind of preclude them from coming into DeFi, we really are working with companies like you guys, like Chainlink, to be able to break down those walls so that, TradFi can get the best of DeFi and that DeFi users can diversify and get access to those assets on chain. So it's retail and institutional products that meet both the institutions and the retail consumers where they're at today without them having to bridge that gap and go full crypto native.
Oh, I love that a lot. And it's funny you mentioned just the concept of building bridges between TradFi and DeFi, but I feel like I've also heard you guys talk about building bridges even within the crypto community, right?
Yep.
You guys are very famous for holding a lot of wrapped Bitcoin. So anything you want to add or just highlight on that?
I think
I'll
this is
let
the
Chase-
Chase
I'll let
question.
Chase grab that
yeah,
one.
this is definitely a Chase question.
I'm the more quiet one, believe it or not. It used to be.
I
at
don't
one
think
time.
I don't think his mic's on.
Yeah, I don't got a mic, or it's close. We'll see if we can get it.
There we
Normally
go.
I'm loud, so this actually is a new world for me. But yeah, so like our idea is like, you know, we've been in the space, maybe not people have noticed us, but we've been here. And one of the things I noticed in the beginning is we were all nervous of what the world thought about us, and now we're all like fighting amongst ourselves. Like, you know, I think we built all of these bridges to take these walls down, but these bridges have like a whole new gate code. They have a whole new, you know, thing or wall for them to climb through. And so for us, we look at it like this space should be wholesome. It should be all together. So as much as we love the DeFi community, we love Bitcoin. As much as we love this producer of this, we love this one. So our idea is like, how do we bring everybody together and fight this fight together? And one of the things that we're going to launch here in the very short future is a strategic reserve. So we put a lot of money together. I'm sure you guys have kind of seen us doing our thing. And the idea is that we're going to leave this on chain and we're going to show commitment back to the industry that's been so good to us and show where we put our value, where we think the space is moving. Because what we think we have here is an amazing flashlight to shine on phenomenal products that maybe didn't get the limelight that they deserve because of all of this slight insanity that's going on, but it's all, volatility is vitality for the space. But we think that like if we take that fishing net and we cast it into the right arena, we can shine on products like Ondo. So our goal is that we get all of these people in crypto to start doing the same thing. It's like taking care of your brother in the space, because we've learned one thing that I think that maybe be news to a lot of people is the world doesn't really speculate, right? We're in a very small amount of people who actually speculate. The majority of the world consumes, right? And they do so for a myriad of reasons. And we think that meeting them where that is amazing. Like, why hasn't the checking account been revolutionized in 20 years, right? Because banks keep it that way because that's the wall to this mode of money, right? So like, if you're gonna revolutionize this space, the easiest way to do it is start going to where they're at. You go to the Gusto, you go to the payroll companies, you start getting them to get the money on chain so you don't have to figure it out. You start denominating a US dollar, you start abstracting away all of this nonsense, if you will, so the end user doesn't have, they have the same security that they had before, and now they have freedom and usability. And so the goal is that someone at the end of the month that is consuming, right, just consuming their normal stuff, they have a little bit more at the end of the month. And that's going to hopefully change the way people think. But if it does, it allows to open the suite of the amazingness that is crypto and all of these speculative, amazing assets. But you do so by a warm welcome, right? You're not going to get this welcome from this new world when you have some amazing altcoin that goes to the moon and back down, just pounds on everybody who's slow and lethargic, and they have a real job they've got to go to, and they have life, right? But if you give them a checking account that's earning 7, 8, 9, 10%, that's backed by an Aave, that has abstractions to a debit card, that allows them to move around this world freely and no new walls, it's the same interaction, but at the end of the month, they get more. So now you're not asking something from someone, you're giving someone, and that's how you're going to change people's humanity in here and their nature, right? And that's what we believe in. For us, we're big Bitcoin fans. We've always been big. We're big Ondo fans. We're big Chainlink fans. We're big Ethereum fans. We're big builder fans. If you're taking your time and you're walking to the front of this and you're going to take all the holes they shoot through you to build something great, you've got our attention. And we think by doing so, you're going to really shine a light. And who better to bring this world together? I mean, I want teachers to be involved here. I want dentists. I want the firemen. I want these amazing NYPD officers that have been so gracious to us to be all in on this and get a piece where they're not worrying about like a 5% change, because we may be able to take a 20% downgrade. Most people who are consuming in their life can't take that. But if you're just like, listen, your money will be worth more every single time, and it's backed by US treasuries, we've done two things. We've made sure that the American dollar stays the sediment layer for another 60 years, right? And that should be a goal for all of you. If you don't understand that, go study back in the 50s and how we got to where we're at, and it will tell you where the future's going. And I think that is amazing. At the same time, we give them the freedom and the chance to indulge in this amazing arena that they haven't laced the right skates up for yet. So we're going to make it real easy on them and hold their hand through the space, if that makes sense.
I love that a lot. There's been some critique on the banks in this panel, some of it definitely justified.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, but I also heard you talk about, you're going to go after payroll flows and really, in a way, work with the existing institutions, though.
Correct.
I almost feel like you're teasing an announcement almost.
Yeah, we got to have fun with it.
How do you view kind of working with the traditional system to enable that access a little bit more, or is it really, working against it?
I think, Zach, you want to grab that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certain pieces of, the financial system that are just not going to go away. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to see companies like World Liberty Financial and other companies, Chainlink, I know Sergey's here. We saw him earlier. He's a really good friend of ours. And without Chainlink, like none of this is even possible. So I think one of the things that we're going to see is we're going to start seeing, the best of traditional financial institutions pairing up with the best of like the true builders in the DeFi space to come together and create products where it takes the pieces of, everyday life, like Chase was alluding to, like, direct deposit payroll. Who here is really going to be happy if they wake up on Friday morning, and check their account and their payroll hasn't been deposited, right? So we're going to have to find ways to work with companies that manage payroll for large companies and, for all of these everyday Americans to get that money into some sort of a crypto project or product if that's going to truly replace what's out there right now. And at the same time, you can't just put your money into a protocol and let it just sit there, because then when you go to Starbucks, you go to the grocery store, you go to the gas station, what are you going to do? I mean, I live in Puerto Rico, and we have Bitcoin ATMs in Puerto Rico, which is pretty cool to see. But it's such a pain to try to figure out. I can't even figure out how to use this thing. And, I've been in crypto for 10 years. I've tried before. So what we need to do is we need to find simple ways for point of sale to come into the crypto world so that not only can you get your money into crypto or DeFi and start earning more like Chase was talking about, but also be able to make it easy for people to use like Apple Pay, Google Pay, debit card payments at point of sale so that you can not only earn more in DeFi and crypto, but also be able to utilize these funds for everyday spending. So, and then it goes beyond that too when we start talking about brokerage services and, all the securities that you guys are working on at Ondo. I don't think that we're going to see banks go anywhere. I mean, we're not here, like, yes, we're very critical of the traditional system that's in place, but I think we can all agree that, like, the banks aren't just going to pack up and go home because, like, a bunch of guys with tattoos and T-shirts are here. It's unrealistic, nor do we want that to happen.
They're going to have to play ball.
Yeah, we just want a place where everybody can get more for their dollar and feel more comfortable. Like, when we first sat down, when Zach, Chase, and I first sat down with Don and Eric to start talking about putting this project together, it became very clear to us that they have been through the exact same struggles that a lot of us and other tech founders have been talking about recently about being debanked simply because you have any sort of connection to crypto. So that alone, having that lack of security that your bank account is going to be there in the morning, that's terrifying, right? Everybody should be terrified. Whether you're a school teacher or a billionaire, that's a scary thought. So I think by putting the power back in the hands of the people, which is a very American concept, and working with these traditional institutions that have been here since the beginning of our nation, it's going to be finding that happy medium between self-custody as well as, some centralized custodianship where we can trust in our dollar, we can trust that it's going to be the settlement layer of the entire world like it has been since at least the 50s, and also make these products really simple and easy to use. So I think that we're going to see that shift where TradFi and DeFi kind of come together and create this blended ecosystem where the products kind of do more for the end user, but also give the benefits that come with some of the traditional financial interests that people have been looking for.
Yeah, the cat's out of the box. I mean, you guys made it that way.
Yeah.
So, like, at the end of the day, they've had a monopoly forever, right? So the cat's out of the box, so, like, they have to adapt. And that's all anybody has ever wanted. Just adapt.
And by the way, that's happening already.
Correct.
As evidenced by the people who are reaching out to us who came from,
Correct.
The world that maybe I'm crapping on a little bit only because, listen, I take it personally. It was, when you're someone's buddy and then you no longer get invited, you wonder why. It's like, I take it personally. I'm a Trump. I can't help myself. But we push back. But no, the reality is, I mean, some of the biggest people in that world are now, hey, what's going on here? How can we partake? And so I think, we're educating them as much as anything because, hey, they've had an easy system. They've essentially had a monopoly on all of this. They've done this. There's a lot of middlemen in there that probably have no business being there. We're going to force efficiency even in those traditional markets. And I think, that's the natural, projection of where this is going to go. I think we're just the accelerant that's going to force that to happen faster and better than it would if it just sort of sat there on its own without it.
the bloat. Put it back to how it was started at the beginning. I think, the banks have bloated as they didn't, because I said they've kind of like run without rails, right? And so like, I think when you open up this box and you show people what they're capable of, that you no longer need that. I mean, I remember the first share I ever bought, I called it on the phone, right? I'm sure a lot of people, we had to call it in, then you waited, you're like, all right, did I get my receipt from, what'd I get in at? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, the evolution happened so fast, but all of a sudden we just stopped. And like that stopped evolving, and the world just kind of like changed the products. And we just think that, we really think banks have the smartness inside, and they will evolve here, and we'll all play fair game. And once it's open for the world to see, you can't really, there's no mishigash that can take place, and we like that.
I think we're very aligned in that overall vision of bringing the best of both worlds together and then seeing where that leads.
Absolutely.
Don, I want to finish with a question to you. You have a lot of the digital asset industry and crypto industry gathered here today, as well as watching online. Are there any closing thoughts or parting thoughts that you want to leave us with?
Well, listen, I want to just thank all of those people, whether it's the meme coin guys or the Bitcoin guys or everyone in between. I just want to thank them for actually, putting that faith in us, both, electorally as well as, what we see going on right now. And I'm going to assure you that, the team that my father put in place to do that is going to deliver on those promises. And I think, again, I truly believe it is the future of finance. I think it's, where this is going. I think it's an incredible thing for America and the world, and we're just excited to be a part of it. And I just, want to thank them for, putting their faith in us. Because again, I'm used to people making a lot of promises and not often delivering. I assure you, we're going to deliver.
Love that. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having us.